In the distant future, humanity will live in gigantic mobile city machines roaming across a ravaged Earth, locked in ruthless wars for survival and resources. The 60-minute war nearly wiped out humanity forever. Those who survived turned their towns and villages into mobile settlements and began a new life on the poisoned surface. Hunting for food and fuel, the weak were crushed, and the strong grew stronger. Thus began a new era, the age of the great predator cities of the West. Standing on the edge of a cliff, a young woman spots a city approaching through her binoculars. Terrified, she checks her weapon and races back home. There, life goes on as usual. People work, talk, unaware of the danger closing in. The moment she reaches her city, the sentries sound the alarm. They've spotted the enemy too. Panic erupts in the streets. Residents run for cover, shops shut down, and the city begins to transform. Streets and buildings fold in, armored shields rise. In seconds, the whole town becomes a massive machine. Seeing the sheer size of the enemy, the city's leaders realize there's only one option: to run. Engines roar to life, and the city jolts forward, tearing across the wasteland. Meanwhile, in the predator city, everything is ready for battle. The crew is confident this chase will be easy, but to their surprise, the little mining town refuses to surrender, and it's fast. The people aboard the massive machine laugh and cheer, enjoying the chase as if it were a grand show. Mr. Valentine is soon visited by the mayor, furious that they're wasting time chasing such tiny prey. There's hardly any profit in them. The leader insists they never should have left the safety of Britain for the ruins of Europe, but now that they're here, they must scavenge resources by any means necessary. After ordering his men to catch the mining town, he walks away. Meanwhile, the town of Saltsackiner keeps running for its life. Realizing they're being overtaken, their ruler gives a desperate command: dump the supplies. They'll have to lighten the load if they want to survive. The girl watches everything unfold. In the massive city of London, a man enters the London Museum, visibly upset by the behavior of the people outside. They act as if the hunt has made them completely wild. On top of that, he's irritated by the heavy shaking. It could damage the exhibits, like the statues of American gods, the minions. At that moment, Miss Valentine approaches him. She had been waiting for someone for quite a while, but no one had arrived yet. Checking her watch, Dr. Pomeroy apologizes for the delay and asks why Tom hasn't shown up at work. Meanwhile, Tom is sprinting toward the museum, weaving through the crowd, bumping into people, and apologizing profusely as he goes. Meanwhile, the chase for Saltsackiner continues. At some point, London's control team realizes the small city is heading straight for a cliff, but the mayor doesn't care and orders them not to change course. At the last possible second, the city veers away, but it begins to fall apart mid-motion. Seeing this, the mayor gives the order to fire. Massive cables erupt from the predator city and ensnare Saltsackiner. The people of London cheer. The hunt has ended in complete victory. Satisfied with the capture, the mayor orders the city to be sent for processing. Giant gates swing open, and iron tentacles drag the prey into the machine's belly. Tom finally bursts into the museum. Dr. Pomeroy is furious at his tardiness. Tom has already received several warnings, and the next one could be his last. The prisoners from the captured city are forced out of their homes. They're lined up, searched, and stripped of artifacts and weapons. A male voice informs them they may only keep personal belongings. After the inspection, housing will be provided. Inside the museum, Tom talks with Miss Valentine, who is studying the collapse of ancient civilizations. She is particularly fascinated by the 60-minute war. Tom is glad she's interested. The museum has several artifacts from that era: smartphones, TVs, computers, but his laboratory holds even more intriguing items. When she enters, she sees a map of the world as it was in the 21st century, before the war. Tom then shows her his invention, created from various artifacts, a kind of projector. He turns it on, displaying footage from the past, showing the use of a quantum energy weapon called Medusa, which destroyed much of humanity. The girl is shocked, unable to understand how people could have been so reckless. Tom, however, disagrees. People back then were just like today. That's why the ancients created the flash key, capable of disabling Medusa. He also frequently discovers fully functional ancient artifacts, though lately some have started disappearing. He reported this to his superiors, but nothing changed. So, he decided to hide the artifacts himself. Opening a safe, he shows her military artifacts he intends to dispose of in a swamp. Unfortunately for Tom, he doesn't realize he's being watched, and his secret stash is now exposed. Exiting the laboratory, Tom and Valentine run into Herbert. He's arrogant, looking down on people like Tom as unworthy of his attention or conversation. Still, he tells Tom that he's expected at the debriefing for the captured city immediately, and if he doesn't show up, he'll be back to scrubbing toilets. Valentine is disgusted by Herbert's behavior and decides to help Tom. With the city at peak hours, he definitely won't make it downstairs on time alone. Using her high-ranking pass, they breeze past the lines and reach the lower level within minutes. Meanwhile, the residents of Saltsackiner are still being inspected. Among them is the girl who first spotted the approaching London. When it's her turn, the guards find no weapons and let her pass. Tom and Valentine walk down a corridor. Tom explains that valuable artifacts often appear among the captured cities, but ordinary workers see them as trash and send them off for fuel. His job is to make sure the precious items aren't discarded. Along the way, they run into Beavis. Catherine accidentally knocks a toolbox from his hands. She apologizes profusely, but he snaps at her, not believing that people from the higher circles could ever be kind to someone like him. Suddenly, Tom spots a worker about to toss a toaster into the scrap pile. It's a rare and well-preserved artifact, and he rushes to save it. Mr. Valentine notices Tom's diligence and praises him for his effort and dedication. Tom is ecstatic. Receiving kind words from such a renowned historian, whose books he has read and admired, is a dream come true. Catherine, laughing, tells her father not to praise her too much, or he might get conceited. Embracing his daughter, Valentine doesn't notice that the girl from Saltsackiner is watching him. Seeing Valentine, a spark of vengeance lights up her eyes. At that moment, a worker brings Valentine an incredible find, an extremely rare and dangerous nuclear inverter battery. Tom is as surprised as Valentine. He recalls that just a few months ago, the Guild of Engineers removed every one of these batteries from the museum. Wrapping the artifact in a cloth, Valentine promises to keep it safe and intact. Taking advantage of Valentine's distraction with the scuffle between guards and prisoners, the girl strikes. While he stares, confused, into her eyes, she drives a knife into his abdomen. He killed her mother, Pandora Shaw, and now she will do the same to him. As she raises the knife for another strike, Tom arrives just in time and knocks it from her hands. Realizing she's failed, the girl pushes through the crowd and escapes. Guards and Tom give chase, while Catherine screams and runs to her injured father. Seeing that she was being followed, the girl decided to make a run for Saltsackiner, which was about to be destroyed. Despite the danger, Tom followed her. He didn't understand why she had decided to kill the historian and wanted answers. Dodging massive knives and spinning saws, he chased after the killer. Running through the crumbling city, every second teetering on the edge of death, he finally caught up to her. Bursting onto a balcony, he saw her preparing to jump into the chasm, but he managed to grab her hand. She wasn't happy about it and demanded he let go. Before pulling away, though, she told Tom to ask Valentine why he had killed her mother and who Hester Shaw really was. As her body disappeared into the abyss, Valentine himself appeared on the balcony. Tom was devastated that he hadn't been able to save her, and her last words left him even more shaken. Valentine calmed him for a moment, and then, without warning, pushed him into the same chasm, following the girl. Bettis, who was fixing a garbage chute at that moment, witnessed the entire scene. Once Tom vanished, Catherine burst onto the balcony. Examining her father's wound, she realized that Tom had fallen into the hole, fought the killer, and Valentine hadn't been able to save him. Just as she was about to leave, she looked up and spotted Beavis. Back at home, her father told Catherine that scout ships had been sent to search for Tom, and if he had survived, they would find him. As for the girl, he didn't know her and had never seen her before. She was probably part of the opposition league. People like her hated their way of life. Unfortunately, stationary and moving cities could never coexist. They hid behind their shield walls and hoarded their resources, fixated on starving and destroying the moving cities. Peace with Shan Guo, he said, was impossible. Catherine, however, disagreed. She believed they could live in peace. Glancing at the table, she noticed maps outlining the route to the shield wall. After waiting for the scout ships to disappear, Hester emerged from her hiding spot and approached Tom's body, planning to take anything useful for her journey. At that moment, he came to. Rising to his feet, he remembered that Valentine had pushed him off the balcony and immediately gave chase. He knew he couldn't survive alone in the wilderness, but Hester didn't need his company. She had spent 6 months planning her journey to London and her revenge on Valentine, and he had ruined it. Still, Tom managed to persuade her to help him, promising that once they reached the nearest trading town, she would never have to see him again. Swallowing her anger, she finally agreed. Meanwhile, the mayor of London voiced his frustration at the historian. He was furious that the man had listened to Valentine and come to Europe. Their food and fuel supplies were running low, and the promises about some new energy project were still just that, promises. The mayor had given the man authority, and if he didn't solve their problems, the mayor would take everything he could. Angry, he set off for work. He had spent 15 years developing his project, and nothing was going to stop him. Traveling with Hester, Tom tried to prove his knowledge of the terrain. He had once dreamed of becoming a pilot. When they reached a fork in the path, Hester decided to test him and clarify the route. After thinking for a moment, Tom chose a path, but he was wrong. The more experienced companion knew that no one in the wild lands ever went south and picked a different way. Meanwhile, Valentine returned to his secret laboratory. There, he asked his assistant when his project would be ready and learned it would take a couple of weeks, but they still needed artifacts, nuclear inverter batteries. He immediately handed her his latest find. The woman asked about the injury. She already knew everything and was surprised to learn that Pandora had a daughter. Valentine demanded that she deal with the girl so she wouldn't interfere. She also mentioned that a stalker had been imprisoned in Sharkmoor, a resurrected hired killer who, it seemed, had been hunting Hester before being caught. Valentine decided not to delay and set off for the prison. Later, Hester and Tom stopped to rest. They had no water, but Hester didn't seem to mind. She found a puddle and drank from it. Tom watched in horror but decided to hold back for now. Feeling a little sorry for him, Shaw offered to share some food, but he refused that too. The packaging said it expired in 2118. In reality, it had been spoiled for about 1,000 years. After a few minutes, Hester finally convinced Tom that ancient food didn't actually go bad, and he reluctantly ate a little. After eating, Tom began to open up. He wasn't used to being so quiet. His whole life had been filled with the hum of engines. At one point, he had dreamed of escaping London and seeing the world, but he never imagined his dream would come true like this. When his parents died, he had buried even the desire to become a pilot. Seeing Hester listening with interest, he wanted to learn more about her, but she immediately shut down. Turning away, she lay down to sleep. At night, she dreams of her past, running from someone as a little girl. Waking from the nightmare, Hester notices Tom isn't beside her. At that moment, he's standing on a rise, shouting and waving at someone. When she climbs up to him, she realizes they're Southerners, and they're out hunting. She warns Tom, and they take off running, but she's shot in the leg. Turning around, Tom sees the Southerners closing in fast. They're out in the open with nowhere to run. Suddenly, the ground beneath him gives way, and he falls through a hole. They've stumbled into a small town buried underground. Tom rushes to Hester and asks for a doctor. She's badly hurt, but the woman there tells them there isn't one. Instead, she offers them an herbal remedy she grew herself. Meanwhile, in London, Catherine finds Beavis. From him, she learns that Valentine has lied to a lot of people, including her. Beavis tells her he saw Valentine shove Tom into a waste chute. Catherine is stunned. She always thought of her father as a man of honor. Beavis isn't surprised. He's convinced Tom was in the way. In Valentine's lab, the historian is working on something secret and dangerous. Beavis tried to find out what, but he couldn't get inside. The place is guarded at every turn. Back in the underground town, the woman settles Tom and Hester into a small room for the night. Lying on the wooden bed, Hester decides to tell him about her mother. She was only 8 when her mother died. An archaeologist, her mom loved traveling in search of artifacts. Valentine often came by, spending hours studying what her mother had brought back from expeditions. Everything changed in an instant when her mother found a particular artifact in what used to be the United States. Valentine had been searching for it for a long time, but her mother refused to give it to him. He took it by force and killed her. Before dying, her mother gave Hester a pendant and told her to run. But Hester disobeyed, lunged at him, and he slashed her face, leaving deep scars. Realizing he would kill her too, the girl ran. Meanwhile, Valentine arrives at a prison, where he meets a resurrected cyborg. The cyborg tells him that Hester once broke her word, and that as soon as he finds her, he'll kill her. The historian immediately decides to free the killer so he can carry out his mission. In the assigned cabin, Tom wakes his friend and tells her that the town has changed course and is now heading south. Their room is locked from the outside, and they can't escape through the floor hatch because of Hester's injury. She urges him to run alone, but he refuses to leave her behind. A few minutes later, men arrive and force them out of their rooms. It turns out there are other captives as well. They're being taken to the slave market. As Hester is brought onto the platform, bidding begins. Suddenly, a woman's voice calls out from the crowd, offering 50 quirks for her. It's Fang, a woman wanted in many cities. Recognizing her, the auction master offers a deal. There's a 50,000 quirk reward for Fang's capture. If she pays that sum, he'll give Hester back and won't hand her over to anyone else. Fang counters with another plan, sparking a fight and a gunfight. In the chaos, Hester frees Tom from his handcuffs, and the two friends dash off. Dodging towns that are hastily leaving the scene of the battle, they run straight into a resurrected cyborg. Hester immediately recognizes him. It's Shrike, and they take off again. Meanwhile, Fang finishes off her opponents and sets out to find Hester. Hester and Tom climb onto a large city to escape the cyborg, but it doesn't save them. Shrike follows effortlessly and catches up. At the perfect moment, Fang appears on her airship. Hester manages to climb into the cabin, leaving Tom below. Panicked, she throws him a rope to help him escape, but Shrike grabs it too. Hesitant about saving Tom, Hester still throws him a knife, allowing him to cut the rope beneath him. Shrike falls, and Tom is pulled up into the cabin. Safe at last, Tom immediately wants to protect Hester from Fang, knowing she's the most wanted criminal around. But Fang calms him and tends to Hester's wound. It turns out she knew Pandora and, after her death, tried to find her daughter. Like everyone else, she assumed the girl had died. When she discovers Hester is alive, she's astonished, an 8-year-old surviving alone in the wild. Tom suddenly realizes that Shrike raised her, and he's horrified. He studied these creatures and calls them monsters. Hester, however, doesn't share his feelings, and his words anger her. Meanwhile, Herbert visits Valentine and tells him about a discovered stockpile of artifacts in Tom's lab, asking for a reward, perhaps a university position, a doctorate, or even a title. This news clearly unsettles the historian. Realizing how foolish he had sounded, Tom went to see Hester. After a moment of silence, she told him about Shrike. Long ago, he had found her injured and weak, and brought her home. There, he cared for her as best he could. At first, she had been terrified of him, but over time she grew used to his presence. The cyborg loved collecting discarded human objects, probably because he saw something of himself in those mechanisms. Hester felt that deep inside him, memories of his past life and family still lingered. He noticed her constant sadness and offered a solution. He would turn her into someone like him, rebuild her just as they had rebuilt him. Hester agreed, promising that she would become like him, losing all memories, thoughts, and feelings, and in doing so, gain true freedom. But 6 months ago, she learned that London had crossed the isthmus, giving her a chance to reach Valentine. Her departure enraged Shrike, who felt betrayed by her. Meanwhile, Catherine met with Beavis again. She knew a secret passage into the cathedral, where her father's lab was hidden. Walking through the museum, they ran into Dr. Pomeroy, who informed them that the hidden vault had been completely emptied. Engineers had broken in and taken everything. He hadn't been able to stop them. He then guided them to the secret passage leading to the crypt beneath the cathedral and warned them to be extremely careful. On the airship, Fang put Tom at the helm and was impressed. He was surprisingly good. She suggested he try landing the ship himself in the floating city of Sky Haven. Astonished by the breathtaking view, Tom managed to land the ship successfully. They were greeted by Captain Aura, who invited them to dinner. Back at the cathedral, work continued in full swing. The chief engineer reported that the machine was finally complete, and they could waste no more time. They had to head east immediately. Valentine issued a new course, but the mayor flew into a rage. He was furious that the historian had bypassed him. In Sky Haven, the group arrived at a bar, where they ran into other members of the League opposing Shan Guo's movement. Fang finally explained why she had been looking for Hester. She knew that Pandora had found a highly dangerous artifact and had feared Valentine. To be safe, she warned Hester that if anything happened to her, Hester would have to find her daughter. But the girl didn't know how to help. The only thing she remembered from when she was 8 was that the historian had taken a certain box. Everyone realized they needed to discover, at all costs, what Valentine was building in London. Captain Aura had learned that 6 months ago, Valentine had started buying nuclear inverter batteries from scavengers. Tom immediately understood what was going on. He drew a symbol on paper, and Hester recognized it. It had been on the box her mother had found. Years ago, Pandora had discovered a computer, a system that granted access to quantum energy weapons. At that moment, Catherine and Beavis slipped into the cathedral and watched as Valentine and his engineers activated the quantum energy weapon, Medusa. Back at the bar, Tom explained about the flash drive, the only thing that could shut down Medusa, but it had long been lost. Hearing this, Fang realized that Valentine's goal wasn't just to seize more mobile cities. His plans were far more serious. Just then, a distressed young woman rushed into the bar, announcing that London had turned east and would reach the base of Shan Guo in a few hours. Meanwhile, the mayor, accompanied by his guards, stormed the cathedral, furious that the historian had assumed control of the city. He tried to convince Chrome that the weapon was their only chance for survival. But Chrome refused. He had learned the lessons of history well and considered starting a new war insane. Realizing he couldn't negotiate, Valentine killed the mayor and took command of the city. Catherine and Beavis left the cathedral, shaken by what they had witnessed, and Catherine resolved that she no longer had a father. Back in the bar, discussions about the upcoming attack and defense plans continued. Suddenly, the entire city plunged into darkness, an act of sabotage meant to sow panic. Hester realized that Shrike had found them again. The captains and Anna's people rushed to protect her, but Shrike dispatched them effortlessly. Chaos erupted, buildings burned, and terrified citizens fled in all directions. Escaping the bar, Hester and Tom ran, but the cyborg tracked them down. He was determined to kill her, and Tom immediately threw himself in her defense. Seeing that Shrike was about to strike him down, Hester begged the cyborg to spare Tom. Tears streamed down her face, and in that instant, the resurrected Shrike suddenly realized that she loved the boy. At that precise moment, a bullet mortally wounded the cyborg. Knowing he was about to die, he released Hester from her promise and returned the pendant her mother had left her long ago. His death hit her hard, but she pulled herself together, and with Fang's help, they carried Tom out of the burning city. As Shrike breathed his last, memories of the life he had shared with Hester flooded back, the time he had spent raising and caring for her. He remembered that he once had a family and a child, and for the first time in ages, he truly recalled it all. After the mayor's assassination, Valentine announces a new war to the citizens. Their course is set for Shan Guo, the stronghold of the movement's rivals. They plan to tear down its walls and turn its lands into new hunting grounds. For centuries, wandering cities have tried to break through that barrier. There remains still rotting there. But London has nothing to fear. They possess a super powerful weapon that will annihilate everything in its path. Listening to their new ruler, the citizens cheer, already envisioning a quick victory and another grand spectacle. Tom comes to on Fang's ship and spots a majestic wall ahead. They've arrived in Shan Guo, an enormous and imposing city. The wall cuts completely across the mountain pass, guarded by the Allied fleet. After landing the ships, Fang and the captains head to meet the governor. Anna suggests raising the fleet and striking first, a preemptive attack before London can destroy them. But Tom strongly objects. Thousands of innocent people live in his homeland, and he refuses to let them be harmed. The governor agrees. Shan Guo values human life above all. but admits they have no choice. They must strike first to protect themselves. Suddenly, alarms ring throughout the city, signaling full combat readiness. As they discuss their defense strategy, Fang spots London approaching in the distance and orders the fleet to launch immediately. Meanwhile, London citizens flood the streets to witness what they believe will be an impressive victory. Above their heads, the cathedral dome opens, revealing Medusa, the weapon, primed for its first strike. In Shan Guo, Hester discovers a temple dedicated to the woman behind Medusa. Studying a bas-relief, she notices eyes carved on its forehead, identical to the one on her mother's pendant. Opening the pendant, she finds something resembling a flash drive inside. She immediately rushes to find Tom and share her discovery. Meanwhile, Valentine prepares to strike. Seeing this, Anna orders the alarm sounded and everyone to evacuate the walls immediately. Moments later, a massive strike hits the wall, obliterating the fleet and partially destroying the fortifications. The citizens of London cheer ecstatically. Miraculously dodging falling debris, Hester and Tom find Anna. They show her the flash key. It can shut down Medusa and save countless lives, but to do so, they must infiltrate London. Gathering the captains, the crews embark on a deadly mission. Dodging cannon fire at the cost of their own lives, they take out the enemy guns one by one. The approaching enemy ships no longer thrill the Londoners. Panic spreads, and they scatter. After taking out the last cannon, the captains clear the way for Fang to land Hester and provide her cover. Meanwhile, Valentine completely ignores everything happening outside the cathedral, preparing to strike Shan Guo again. Inside the city, Hester waits for Anna's signal, and the moment Anna clears a path to the cathedral, she rushes inside. Landing the ship on the roof of a building, Fang hands control over to Tom and rushes to help Hester. She arrives just in time. Valentine gives the order for another strike, but his assistant doesn't press the button in time. Spotting a strange figure on the ceiling, Valentine lunges to shield the historian, taking the bullet himself. Tossing the lifeless body aside, Thaddeus spots Fang and fires in return, managing to wound her. Seeing the engineers fleeing the cathedral in panic, Hester hides and then slips through an open doorway. A mechanical voice announces that the strike will occur in 50 seconds. She has very little time to stop it. Meanwhile, Anna and Valentine continue their sword fight on one of the balconies. Though wounded, Anna fights desperately, needing to distract Valentine and buy Hester time. Scanning the computer, Hester finds where to insert the key. Only 30 seconds remain. The system requests a deactivation code. She enters it, but the system reads it agonizingly slowly. She pleads with the machine to hurry. In the final seconds, Medusa powers down, failing to unleash its final strike. At that moment, Valentine lands a deadly blow on Anna, but she knows her mission is complete. Standing on the edge of the balcony, she releases her grip, letting her dying body fall. Stepping out of the cathedral, the historian reunites with his daughter and urges her to flee with him. She refuses. He has killed too many for the sake of power. She no longer believes a word he says. His weapon is destroyed, the wall still stands, and he has lost this war. Suddenly, gunshots echo from the city's control room. Rushing there, she finds everyone inside panicked, and the brakes disabled. Circling London in his ship, Tom sees the city barreling forward, unstoppable despite the weapon's destruction. In desperation, he tries to contact the control room and hears Catherine's voice. She informs him that Valentine has decided to ram the wall, and the brakes and engine controls are completely disabled. She cannot stop the city. Realizing there are no other options, Tom begins to formulate a plan. While Catherine deals with the city, Thaddeus tries to escape on a ship he'd prepared in advance. Stepping onto the upper deck, he's suddenly confronted by Hester. She's tracked him down and is ready to kill him, ensuring he can never hurt anyone again. Standing at gunpoint, the man confesses that he is her father. The revelation stirs memories within Hester, and she realizes he is telling the truth. Seizing the moment of her hesitation, Thaddeus wrests her weapon away, turning the tables. Now Hester is the one under fire. Meanwhile, Tom executes his plan. He waits until Catherine opens the gates granting access to the engines. Flying in, he takes a precise shot that explodes the motors and, miraculously dodging the blast, escapes the city. Back on the deck, Hester and Valentine engage in a brutal hand-to-hand fight. Only one can survive. At one point, she finds a knife in her pocket and wounds him. Reeling, he shouts for her to finish him so it will all be over. But unexpectedly, he refuses, throwing the knife aside. In the next instant, Hester leaps from the deck, where Tom is already waiting. As she climbs aboard the Jenny Ganiver, Tom fires at Valentine's ship. The explosion sends it plummeting toward the ground. Valentine struggles to regain control, but it's futile. His ship crashes. To his surprise, he survives the impact. As he tries to crawl out from under the wreckage, he sees London approaching. Trapped under the broken ship, Valentine watches helplessly as the city, rolling on its massive treads, crushes him under its weight. London finally comes to a halt against the wall, and Catherine stands in horror at the destruction her father caused. Leading the Londoners, she is the first to step forward to meet the governor. Despite all the pain and loss, they are welcomed into Shan Guo. Tom and Hester take off in their now independent ship. At last, Hester opens her heart and reciprocates Tom's feelings, choosing to journey with him into the world, a world he had once dreamed of exploring. Do you think humanity is doomed to repeat its mistakes, greed, wars, and the relentless pursuit of power, even after a catastrophic disaster? Or is there a limit to our insatiable nature? Share your thoughts in the comments down below, give a thumbs up, and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next videos.